This is such a treat to be able to take you through the dig process today. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. The treat is all mine. I'm so excited to do this. A little nervous.
Yeah.
Nerve-sighted, as my friend Alex Franzen would say.
Yes. That's perfect. Yeah, people say that a lot, but it's just like it's all we're doing is remembering you, and giving it one word. And so as people who've seen the show before know, I basically just interviewed Jenny about her life story. We'll go through a bit chronologically. We'll take about 25 or so minutes to do that. And then I'll just ask some questions after that. And I'll be working on actually a dig report in the background. So just taking like some little notes, and I'll be showing you some of these one key words that keep popping up as you've been talking. And then we can kind of figure out what are the ones that are most important to you. And ultimately, this is your process. So the dig is a very personal thing. I'm a facilitator. This is all you. So you tell us what the truth is, and we'll just have some fun with it. Sound good?
That's amazing. I'm truly so grateful because I've known about your process for almost a decade now, and it's so fun to get a chance to be on the receiving end. And then I also cannot wait for the book when
Yeah,
everyone gets to dig themselves.
it'll be so
So
fun.
thank you.
Well,
Yay.
maybe what we could do is we can begin by you can just give your overview before we go into your life story content of like, who are you and just what are you up to in the world?
I'm an author and speaker and career and business strategist. Those are all the things I do. I mean, really, I'm a book nerd. I consume books like they're oxygen. I love reading. I love reading in the dark in the morning with my coffee. I have a 6.5-year-old German Shepherd, a husband who's a fine artist. We live currently in New York City. So also what I do is those are part of my days. I'm often taking Ryder out twice a day for our outings. And within the context of my work, I've been self-employed for it'll be almost 15 years at the time of this recording. It's had its ups and downs. Prior to that, I worked at Google in coaching and training career development. And prior to that, was working at a startup in Silicon Valley. So I've kind of worked in every size company. I find that I'm happiest on my own, but it's definitely been a ringer of a doozy of the last 6 years with ever since the pandemic, but a lot of soul searching in that time. And the last thing I'll say is I've written 3 books. The second book is called Pivot, about navigating what's next. And the third is called Free Time. And that's about optimizing and setting your time free now, far into the future.
Hmm. Yeah. You've always, I feel like, been on such the cutting edge and just like saying what other people aren't saying. And I think
Hmm.
that's just an incredible thing about you. What would you say you were like as a kid?
Yeah, I guess independent. I was a latchkey kid in the 80s, San
Mm.
Francisco. I'm 42 now and grew up half in the city and then we moved to the suburbs in 7th grade. I was always doing things. It's funny because as an adult, early in my career, I did not think I was cut out for entrepreneurship or self employment. But when I look back, I could see that I was starting a family newspaper when I was 10, hosting a neighborhood carnival and charging the local kids for tickets. I was part of one of those schemes where like sell 3 chocolate bars, get one free. Like weird things, but I was always creating things and then yeah, kind of creating these little businesses. And I have a younger brother who's 2.5 years younger. We're very close. And so I probably also I really liked teaching him. I would like want to teach him what I was learning or kind of make him and his friends play school, create little worksheets for them to fill out. And I joke that that's exactly what I do when I give one of my keynotes because I give the audience a worksheet. And it's like, here I am doing the same thing all these years later, having you fill this out. But I have always enjoyed that process of synthesizing something, sharing it, and just seeing the joy in somebody else learning it or being able to improve their life in some way.
Yeah. Okay. So what happened next after you grew up? So you grew up in San Francisco?
San Francisco and Palo Alto for
Okay.
7th grade on. Yeah.
Okay. Did you go to college?
Went to UCLA,
Mm-hmm.
studied communications and political science,
Mm-hmm.
took a leave of absence to work with one of my poli sci professors at this political polling startup back in Palo Alto. So that was exciting and nerve wracking. That's kind of what sparked my first book and blog, Life After College, because I felt like while my friends were still partying and taking finals, I was early into the working world and I had no clue what I was doing. And that also launched my 2 decades worth of reading every self help book under the sun. So, whether it was about fitness, finance, business, is where I kind of found some spirituality. And I would say that at that time, it was more, I was on the typical track of trying to achieve as part of my identity and self worth. And so, working at the startup, when I hit a plateau 2 years in, I started interviewing for Google in my car on lunch breaks. And I pivoted, although I didn't have that language at that time, pivoted over to Google. And then while at Google, I started doing coach training on nights and weekends because even within my role at Google, I was doing more technical training and I loved the teaching part, but I got sick of just saying the same thing every day over and over to every new cohort of Nooglers coming in. So receiving coaching sessions is where I felt such a profound shift of just somebody asking me, what is most important to you? Like you're doing right now. I had never experienced that. What do you value? What's important to you? Asking the really big questions. And so I ended up, once again, kind of wanting to give that to other Googlers and make dropping coaching as free and easily accessible as any of the other benefits at Google at that time. So with a small team of people, we created and launched a program called Career Guru. It's still in place today. And it's still something that I'm very proud of, where Googlers can sign up for one-on-one career coaching and they don't have to pay these exorbitant, which I'm now on the other side of, exorbitant executive coaching fees, or have to get approval from their manager. Because really what irked me was I got rejected. I asked for another coaching session and they said, no, we don't have the budget. And so then I set about trying to solve that.
Mm-hmm. So it seems like you've had a lot of themes around just like learning, growth, personal development.
Yeah, I used to joke if I could get paid to read books, that's probably what would make me the happiest. And then I did have two podcasts for 9 years where essentially that was true, although the podcast never really earned more than they cost to create.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, they were priceless in terms of making friends. I joke it's kind of the introvert's guide to networking. But that was really close where I would have to read a book, prepare for the guest, have a conversation with an author I admire, and get to talk to them one on one and ask my personal questions about their book. This was my version of interviewing superheroes. And
Mm-hmm.
it just would blow my mind. Sometimes an author that had a profound impact early in my career, one day their team would reach out to me and the email would land in my inbox like, would you have them on the Pivot podcast? And to this day, I can't believe those moments, you know? So
Mm.
even though I'm not doing them right now, it was such a rewarding part of my career in business.
Who is kind of a highlight for you and why?
One of the early ones, this would be maybe a name, not as much of a household name to all of you listening and watching, but Fred Kaufman wrote a book called Conscious Business. And it
Mm.
was his leadership program that I took early on in my career at Google, where I received those life changing coaching sessions that led me then become a coach. And so he had a book coming out. And when I got to interview him, it was just this really beautiful full circle moment because I had never met him. And yet he had had this profound impact on my career. That was a big one. Interviewing Kevin Kelly was amazing, co founder of Wired Magazine. Getting to interview and then it led to a full 12 episode series. Penny Pierce, she wrote a book called The Intuitive Way that really started to teach me how to listen to that quiet voice within. And one of the exercises in The Intuitive Way, Penny says, make a list of someone you would love to meet. So I wrote her name down and I'm like, of course, everybody who reads this book would love to meet the author of the book. And
Right.
thinking, what a silly thing to write down. But I did it anyway. And when I invited her onto the podcast, we had so much fun recording. Like I said, it kind of organically turned into this longer series. Now it's almost an album on Spotify, The Penny and Jenny Show. But that became a really deep, rich, rewarding friendship and relationship. And it just, I guess, with the podcast, it gave me the courage to ask and it gave other people a reason to say yes, because I wasn't just asking to take
Mm.
their time. I think it always bothered me, people saying, oh, I'd love to pick your brain. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, as one
Yeah.
mentor said to me, like, who wants their brain picked? It just sounds
Yeah.
aggressive. But I love being able to create a win-win-win where it's like,
Mhm.
I get to talk to someone I admire. They get to be like here, they get to do something out loud in public, and then people listening can benefit and serendipity. Popcorn can pop up all over the place beyond even this time right here and now that we're recording.
Yeah. What would you say that someone like Penny represents, like on a one word basis? Like I have her book Frequency on my nightstand
Oh,
right
nice. I
now.
love that one too.
Love that book so much.
Spirituality.
Mm.
Wayne Dyer also had a big impact on me. I read his book Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, which is based on the Tao, and he would put a passage from the Tao and then his interpretation of it. And I grew up with a sort of obligatory sense of religion, but we didn't talk about God in my house. It was never like, oh, you can lean on something bigger than you, or it's just not how I was raised. It was kind of a secular household, San Francisco. I don't know how else to explain it, but by the time I was in my 20s, I was so deeply anxious and unmoored and just struggling. And so finding Wayne Dyer was the first one, and finding the Tao and the wisdom in it just was like full body resonance. And I realized like I need that spiritual connection. I needed something. I didn't necessarily need it to be organized religion, but to this day, I sort of remember and forget how much I require a spiritual connection. And when I don't have it is when I feel the most lost and hopeless and helpless.
Mm. Yeah. So bring me up to speed. Like what have you been working on lately?
Well, let's see. For 2 years, as you know, I was writing a Substack called Rolling in Dough. That's
Mhm.
DOH with a face palm after Homer
So
Simpson.
good.
Yeah. And that was about what was really challenging, like the stickier sides of self employment. I felt like my life and business had been so challenging when the pandemic hit. Within the first 2 weeks, I lost 80% of my projected revenue.
Mm.
And it was like all my worst fears about running a business came true and then some, because I never even dared to worry about the fact that I could lose all my clients all at the same time, never to return. And
Hmm.
I didn't lose every single last one, but a lot of business went away. And although in the beginning I was trying to be really optimistic, oh, it'll be back. Let's just wait till 2021. How about 22, 23, 24? It just, there was no going back. Like
Hmm.
it's a new world. And so the Substack was about being real and open. I felt no one was really saying the quiet part out loud of what a lot of us small business owners were feeling and going through behind the scenes. And I felt quite alone in that. And I just couldn't stand to pretend anymore that all was shiny and positive. I couldn't force that sort of toxic positivity. And I felt that I wanted to be of service to other people who are feeling like maybe it's their fault, or they're feeling alone, or they're feeling stuck in the struggle.
Hmm.
And even though it's paused at the moment as we record this, it felt really good to just poke a little fun, laugh at things, put language to things, express the ambiguous grief of subtle losses, or just my before self or my projected future self. Even if I know deep down that, it's almost like a ghost self is who I could have been if I stayed on the achievement track versus who I actually am when I'm following my soul's path. And it
Mm.
just looks different, or it keeps surprising me. So when
Mm.
you say catch us up to now, I would say, right, just starting to come around the corner from a pretty deep, someone called a midlife crisis, but a
Mm.
really shedding of a lot of old identity pieces, a lot of shadow work, just looking at the grief, regret, remorse, failure. I joked that I was in my flop era, that I want to teach a course on flopology. Like all the things that we don't want to look at or talk about, I kind of found it exciting to
Mm.
just bring them into the light a little bit. And I
Mm.
needed it. It's what I needed. I needed to write my way through. I didn't know what else to do because all the old strategies stopped working. And I was at a dinner where somebody said, yeah, career, you're like a hand and you just need to find the glove that fits. And I said, but what if your hand turns into a foot? Like I had the glove that fit my hand. I had the career. I had this like booming business. It was peaking in 2019. It was up and to the right for the first 10 years of my self employment. And then you look at the arc and it's like a rainbow. It just goes all the way back down to the lowest
Mm.
revenue in 15 years at the end of 2025. And again, part of that journey was spiritual, but I also felt like the glove is gone. Like the hand is gone. It's a foot now. We're working with a foot.
Yeah.
Like it's a
Hmm.
complete paradigm shift.
What is the quiet part that people don't say out loud about entrepreneurship?
Well, I feel that there is a very real and understandable concern that if you talk about anything being less than perfect, you will scare business away. Like it will become a self fulfilling prophecy. So if you're a
Mm.
coach and you say, I'm struggling to land clients, I mean, in a way, it does make sense. Then future clients are not necessarily attracted. They're like, well, there must be something wrong. Like
Yeah.
I live in New York City, and if you go into a restaurant at lunch hour and nobody's in there, there's something wrong with it. Like you have chosen the wrong restaurant. You got to go to the
Mm.
one that there's a line to get in, or you need a reservation. That's even the most coveted. So I get why it's hard as a business owner, and you also don't want to seem ungrateful. So let's say like an author, speaking from experience, launches their book into the world, whether you've sold one copy, 100 copies, 1,000, if you, it's not complain, but if you talk about, oh, but my Delulu expectations or my big dream, my fantasy was that I was going to sell 100,000, there's disappointment to grapple with. But it's hard not to sound ungrateful for
Mm.
those perfect, beautiful, wonderful readers who already bet on you, who already bought the book. And so I think sometimes there's a real part of us that doesn't want to seem ungrateful. You kind of hear this with celebrities on podcasts. They're like, I know I shouldn't complain about fame, but it's like they know that they're privileged and there are still some really nightmarish aspects that
Mm.
they experience that they should be able to talk about too, ideally. And so
Yeah.
I just found that that's the quiet part for especially business owners, like talking about the struggle, talking about numbers being down, talking about the pipeline being empty, talking about losing a big client, talking about the self doubt that creeps in. It's not just the numbers. For me, there's a real, my confidence took a hit. And then people would be like, buck up, why aren't just cheer up already? But it's like, all right, but if, you know, like 9 contracts fall through, why would I be like so confident about the 10th one? I like it also
Yeah.
made sense to me. Like, of course my confidence is lower because I'm trying things and I'm not achieving the results I need just to even pay the bills. Like
Mm.
it got to the point where we're putting groceries on credit cards. It's not like, oh, I'm just, oh, poor me, I'm falling short of my 7 figure dream. It's like, no, we can't even afford our life. And I'm the breadwinner for our family. So I felt a lot of pressure to do that. And I needed a release, like somewhere to be able to talk about it and connect and relate.
Yeah. What would you say your biggest superpowers are? Or maybe the people around you, who people closest to you, what would they say are your superpowers?
Well, certainly, like I said, reading. I don't know if it counts as a superpower, but kind of knowing I can always recommend a book or an app or a tool or a resource. I love doing
Mm-hmm.
that. So I love taking things in and then curating them for others. Superpower. Oh, I don't know. That's why we're here, Erin.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know.
Wow.
I mean, people have often said they can relate to my writing.
Mm.
Um, so hopefully somewhere in there is a superpower around, uh, yeah, just again, sort of alchemizing my own struggle and then creating some kind of system. So order from
Mm.
chaos
I
might
know
be the way to
that
put
before
that.
we actually met, you're one of these people that I have a few of them where people like for years would say, you need to know so and so.
Oh,
And you were
that's
like one
awesome.
of my people. Like, do you know Jenny Blake?
Oh,
You
that's
must know
so
Jenny Blake.
cool.
And we just didn't know each other for a really
Yeah.
long time. And I think it was our mutual friend Jonathan Fields that was like finally like, okay, this
Yes.
needs to happen.
Yes. And I
um,
remember Michael Bungay Stanier went through a dig with
right.
you and
That's
he
right.
was blown away and spoke so highly of you. So yeah, it was like at least 10 years of circling around.
Yeah. But you know
Yeah.
what? The thing that people always said about you, it like attached that all these different parties would
Mm.
say, like, Jenny is just such a bright light. Like
Oh,
she's
thank
just bright,
you.
shiny, like just this whole thing. And I
Wow.
was like, oh,
I'm
I'm
honored.
so excited for the day that I get to be basked in this
Oh
shininess.
my gosh. Thank
Does
you.
that resonate with you and to
I
hear people?
mean, I'm humbled by that. I feel humbled. Thank you. That's very kind. I know
Mm.
people who are like that for me. where I'm like, how
Mm-hmm.
are you like this? But I
Mm-hmm.
really appreciate that. And sometimes I guess I feel bad then. I would hate to show up as not that way, for
Mm-hmm.
someone, but
Yeah.
that means a lot. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, but I think, I mean, sometimes you like we have to bring both, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just so performative to just be one thing. I think one of the
Yeah.
freeing things about this work with the dig and like working with words as these one word frequencies is that there's multiple expressions of it, of
Yeah.
every single word.
That's so true.
What would you say, like, because I find that a lot of times the superpower and the shadow are really two sides of the same coin that is this one word frequency.
Mm.
So,
Oh.
what would you say some of your shadows would be? Like, where do you struggle thematically or?
Yeah. Well, the one I've been looking at recently is my deep desire to do things alone and be
Mm,
independent. I think I
mm,
don't ever want to burden others. My mom, growing up, we lived with my mom. She worked full time. I could see that she was stressed and working hard, and I just didn't ever want to contribute to anyone else's stress. And I kind of like early on of my own doing basically developed quite like codependent ways of relating to people. So I'll just think about their mood, their energy, what do they need, and I'm good. As long as I don't have to ask for help, I'm good. And so I've been really looking at that in the last few years, but even more recently, where what is this desire that I have to do it alone? And it makes me angry. Like when people say, oh, the answer is community. I'm like, but
mm,
I know it's true. And when I connect with people, yes, good things happen and I feel joyful. But I guess the other side of that is, oh, I feel very sensitive to the world, my energy. I don't know. I feel I don't have as much capacity as some super networkers that I know. I just feel my capacity is low for connecting. So,
mm,
so it's both sides of it. It's like not always going it alone, this fierce independence to the point of stubbornness and making life harder. But then I also can't overdo it because then I'm not honoring my need. Like I love just this morning I was with Ryder at Central Park sitting in the snow.
mm.
And it's like I was glad not to be on the phone.
Yeah,
Um, and forcing myself to like stuff interaction into every pocket of the day.
yeah. Yeah, I think sometimes sensitive people get like almost a bad rap for that, but it's just like aren't I almost feel like sensitive people are the people who really know what's up, you know?
Yeah,
Like you're just picking up on the dysfunction, frankly, of the
right.
society, maybe, because you just short out quicker than
Yeah.
others.
Oh, yeah. That's it. And then if I don't notice the shorting out in terms of just a crispy mood,
Mm,
soon my body will rebel. Like I always have said my body has me on a short leash. So like
mm-hmm.
if I defy it for too long, things will happen instantly to humble me
Mm,
and put me back in my place, which is just needing to do a lot of that, like rest and recharging and boundaries and
mm. Has
rituals
it
and
always been that
routines.
way, even when you were a little kid?
Not sure. I don't think so. I think when I was um, growing up all the way into my 20s, I was able to just power through a packed calendar. That was my
Mm-hmm.
time blueprint that
Yeah.
I was comfortable with. Like go to school, go to after school sports, one, then the next, then the next. Um, yeah, so I think I was more unconscious around it, but I always had sort of chronic conditions that would
Yeah.
be lingering, but it didn't knock me out the way that in my mid 20s and onward, it starts to just like I'll end up in the ER.
Mm.
Um, it's more dramatic. It's more dramatic. Like the leash yanks tighter and faster.
Yeah. And you find that that happens after you've gone through a period of pushing too long, or
If I just don't listen to my body or my intuition, or I'm
yeah.
working in the wrong way. Like I remember this period in must have been spring of 2024. I had lost a really big licensing contract that represented at least 6 months of income, if not more,
Mm.
in the summer of 2023. And so in the spring of 24, I was kind of like in turbo, like, gotta earn, gotta replace it,
Yeah.
running around. And in my head, I was thinking, don't be lazy. Like, I'm being lazy or entitled if I work the way I was used to working, which is the free time way, which for me, a full time week is 20 25 hours. That's like a good solid week. And I
Yeah.
can work 4 hours within a day, very focused. I don't procrastinate or take breaks, but I'm done. I'm good. And when I tried to override that, I just
Mm.
started developing super intense neck and shoulder pain to the point where one day I woke up, half my face was paralyzed. And that's the day I went to the ER because I kept trying to push through the pain and I had events to facilitate that people were paying me for. And my husband was worried it was a stroke, and it turned out to be Bell's palsy, which I was able to move past 2 weeks. They give you a medication, but one woman wrote a memoir. She's had it for 10 years, where half
Mm.
your face is kind of paralyzed. And so 2 days after we went to the ER, my husband said, "That's it. We're enrolling you at the gym." Like, because he knew I needed it. He wasn't trying to be strict. He was more trying to give me a permission slip I wasn't giving myself. We went and
Right.
I joined Equinox, like an extravagance I would have never imagined in the past. But ever since then, now I have my happy place where I go, I
Mhm.
work out, I swim, I do steam and sauna. I never would have taken care of myself in that way before this happening.
Mm. I'm really intrigued by this just frequency of like the need for like really to prioritize self-care, to manage energy. I'm also taking into account when people calling you a bright light and
Mm,
like when you're, when you're on, you're on. And then it seems like when
mm,
you need to restore, you need to restore. And it's just like
that's
there's
good.
something about you and your frequency that's very just like it's like it's I see sparks, like
Mm,
there's an electricity to it, and like almost a life path that is learning and teaching how to manage it.
mm, that's very powerful.
Mm.
Yeah. And in a way, it kind of pissed people off rolling in dough. It was so interesting who got angry about that project
Mm.
and why. And I think that it was kind of upsetting for some people that I was not just my completely positive, chipper, optimistic self. Like there was a little bit
Mm.
more of a, I don't know, downbeat. I don't know if that's the right word. That was like the criticism. Not everyone agrees with that because I would like get a message and then run it by a few people. But it was interesting, like people weren't used to seeing me that way, where I wasn't just like, everything's hunky dory and it's going to be amazing, you know?
Yeah.
And that I do have a natural optimism, but it was so interesting how really some people were like, either why are you sharing this or why can't you just snap out of it already? Or who is this person? Like, it's a
Mhm.
problem if you're not the shining bright light at all times. And I think, in a way, Rolling in Dough allowed me to rebel against that. Or, like you said, at least bring in the other sides and say, I'm a whole person.
Mm.
And integrating that into my public facing persona, um, which I can't say that it led to a lot of more business. Like that's the funny
Yeah.
thing. It was not necessarily the smartest business move, but at that point, I it was a survival project, a creative project, and I didn't care. And I think that's
Mm.
something that's been a thread in my life.
Mm.
I don't know if it relates to the light and shadow that we're talking about or the sparks, but I'm almost half like not have to, but I've always felt I'm a messenger of something bigger than me. My books are certainly co creations with something bigger than me. And I have to follow that soul calling in any given moment. I don't care what anyone has to say about it. Like, and that is true. And so it was very interesting with Rolling in Dough who it would trigger and why. I didn't know, didn't care, kept going. And I did want to quit many times. And it's my husband's credit that he said, just write tomorrow's post, just keep going. He kind of got me to push through those moments because I have a lot of people pleasing. I was afraid of those comments and that disapproval.
Mm.
Um, but something in me, that's all I know. That's the one thing I do know about my career is I got to do that thing that's aligned with my soul. And with
Mm.
my books, they come to me and like if the publisher said, "Oh, write a different book," or my agent, which they've said, "Oh my," or write this other book, it would sell better. I can't do it. Can't do it. Has to be
Mm.
100% aligned. Has to be that soul level project. Can't do it. And if I
Mm.
try, that's when the health stuff will also kick back
Mm.
in and remind me.
Yes. So it's almost like some people have, I wouldn't say it's a luxury, but they have the ability to override what their soul's
Right.
calling them to do. And you just don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe their soul calls them to money and success, you know. And mine might. It's not the primary driver, and I'll do things that might not make the most sense from a pure number standpoint.
Mm,
So yeah, it's like maybe for some people their calling really is more
mm,
straightforward or more flexible in terms of like
mm.
what society recognizes as success. And then mine's almost like regardless of that, here's your assignment.
Yeah.
Go do it and trust that something will come of it, but
Mm,
I don't always know what.
yeah. What are you excited about for the future?
Oh, well, lately I've been helping. It doesn't have to only be people who are self-employed, but creatives hone their idea collecting systems. That's been very joyful. So I
Mm,
piloted a class called Create How to Create Your Idea Collection Bucket. And then that's gone all the way through to working with authors and helping them shape how they approach writing a book. And so here we are, full circle back to the books. But that's
mm-hmm,
super joyful because I get to help books enter the world. And there's a lot of talk. I think I would always be hard on myself. Like, I'm not a writer. I don't have an MFA. I'm not a writing coach. And I don't necessarily need to be a writing coach. But it's so cool to be part of someone's life at the moment that they are co creating with something
mm,
bigger. And then no matter what people say, publishing's dying, books don't sell, it's winner take all. There is a lot of truth to some of that when you look again purely at the numbers, but I still cherish books as almost an artifact, something that's been so meaningful and
mm.
life changing to me and life giving. Like my best friends, oh, even memoir I really got into the last few years. So that's been really exciting looking to the future, thinking, can I do even more of that?
Mm. Yeah. Do you work with just anybody who's writing a book, or do you have criteria of the kinds of people or the kinds of books that you feel invested in?
That's a good question. I haven't gotten that far yet, but
Mhm.
the people who tend to resonate with me would have a kind of a spiritual sensibility. Um, yeah, it's funny. I haven't thought about that, but it just tends to be people who are focused on the being, not just the doing elements of it.
Mm,
Um, yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I haven't gotten that far
mm.
yet. I know that I have to resonate with just who the person is. Like
Yeah.
sometimes I heard this advice, read it in a book once, but if someone asks for a meeting, they look at their photos so that their intuition will tell them yes or no. And just this morning, I was going to go book a demo of a piece of software. I click on the bio of the person. And when I click on the bio, a photo pops up where they're wearing this really dark mask. And it freaked me out. It was like from a horror show. And I'm like, whoa. And I was going to book the demo. And then I saw the mask photo and I'm like, we're good here. We're good. That's all I need to see. And I know maybe you shouldn't judge people just on that, but it concerns me.
Yeah.
Like, or a hollow expression. If I see a photo and they have a hollow expression or like black eyes, I'm like, not for
Mm,
me. Not for me. Just to go
yeah.
based on energy. And I might miss a few great people that way, but that's an
You know what?
important part of the
Like,
filter.
I think that's just like yet another area where your sensitivities are your superpowers. You know, you are sensing things. I'm going to share with you a screen I've been working on in the background while you've been
Cool.
talking, was to bring up some of these words. And um, you know, I think, let's see, I think it's just so important to like honor what is about people instead of trying to change all the time. I think it's one of the things you and I have in
Mm,
common when it comes to authenticity and stuff. So as you were telling your story, taking some notes, and then I was just pulling out these one word frequencies.
cool.
Just there's like so much about you that's about learning and caring and
Mm,
sharing and restoring and like being simply like being and creating. And it's just like honestly being in your whole vibe is has always and even in this moment right now it's just it
mm.
feels like so how humanity is supposed to be like it just feels truly human not like how we've like evolved to become or that we've risen up to perform as but just how it was intended you know and it's like I almost wonder, like, I loved rolling in dough. Like, it
Thank you.
upsets me that you got anything other than, positive stuff around that. But I get why, like, as a truth teller myself, I know I
Mm,
trigger people
mm,
because sometimes people don't want to see the dark. Right. But anyway, as you were talking, you started saying something that I call non-negotiables. So I'm always
mm.
looking, sitting very closely for non-negotiables. Non-negotiables are statements that are clearly not up for discussion.
That's
And
so
you,
cool.
if you listen back to this recording, like, you'll hear yourself do several rapid fire around the word soul. So I'm always looking for non-negotiables. Non-negotiables are those things that they are just like undisputably true. They're not up for discussion or debate or anything. And you said, I have to follow the soul calling. I don't care what anyone says about it. I've got to do that thing aligned with my soul. And you like went on and on and on and soul
Mm.
calling and soul this and soul that and soul this. Um, and then I was just like, okay, I get the point. And this
Mm,
is kind of my spiritual work, is like hearing this, and then the words
mm.
start kind of talking to me, even outside of like what you're saying. And soul just really came front and center. I'm wondering if that resonates with you.
Yeah, well, thank you for your noticing and reflection. And I love the line you quoted in the non negotiable, don't care what anyone says about it, because for most of my life, I deeply cared
Mm,
and was a people pleaser and sort of codependent and always wondering what other people are thinking. And so to have you reflect, okay, but when it's a soul calling, I don't care, like we'll protect it with my life.
yeah.
Um, that rings very true. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah, you go from like just super like flowy and not like
Mm,
agreeable in like a bad way, but just like kind of go with the
yeah.
flow. It's like absolutely not. Like, it must
And I
be in
think,
alignment with my soul.
and yeah, and for some people, I have friends where people pleasing is not a tendency. And it's
Mm.
not hard for them to go their own way or write off troll emails or stuff. They don't care. It just never penetrates their being. And whereas I'll be deeply affected, I'll burst into tears. So it's more difficult, I guess, for me
Hmm.
to have areas of my life where I don't care what they say or I'm doing it anyway. So,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I also often feel a lot of fear. Like if I work on a next project, I'm constantly thinking, what will people say? So it is a interesting push pull in my psyche where it's
Yeah.
like, okay, I know this is the right next thing,
Hmm.
and I'm terrified of people's reaction. It's not like, oh, and I'm so fearless, I can just put it out there or do the work. I'm just like
Yeah.
grappling with so much fear around it.
Well, and that's a beautiful way to describe our words. Like,
Mm,
every single of my 1,000+ people that I've done this process with, like, no one has ever said to me, like, I got this thing down. If they
mm.
say that, that's not your word. Like, that's my,
Interesting.
because, and in fact, just last night I taught a workshop in Boulder. It was probably like 30 people or so. And I was basically kind of like digging the room. It was really cool. And I was working with some people in this. And like, one of the popular questions that I would ask people as they were like, okay, I can't decide if it may be this word or this word. And I was like, well, do you struggle with this particular word?
Mm,
They're like, no, it's good. And I'm like, okay, then just scrap it. Because we this one word frequency is what we're here to learn, and it's what we're here to teach. And so it always bothers me when people teach things that they haven't had to go through the master
yeah.
class in
Right.
learning. And what I think is so great about you, Jenny, is like, you are doing the work. It's probably never going to end either. Like, this is I think your life's calling is to learn how to listen to your soul, honor your
Mm,
soul, figure out what's in alignment with your soul, reject things, systems, people, opportunities that aren't
mm,
feeding your soul, and trusting yourself implicitly beyond the mind or the body, and to know that there's like something so much bigger calling you. And I think that in turn, it's also you're teaching people how to do that, like through your failures, through your struggles, but also through your wins and through everything you do. And I just want to say about these words on the outside, I mean, there's an overwhelming amount of words, but for you, I really think all of these things could immediately, like, if I had enough time, I'd put all these lines all like radiating from soul, um like, does it connect with my soul? Is it a yes with my soul? Is it real for my soul? Does this light my soul up? Does this free my soul? Does it make me happy to create this from a place of soul? Do you see what I mean? Like, it just, it just feels like there's only one point.
That's so cool. That's so cool. I love the idea of, seeing all those words is really powerful, but then having each one be a filter
Yeah.
and a lens to look at soul, because soul is such a massive
Oh my
concept.
gosh.
What even is our soul, Um,
Yes.
oh, that's really interesting, Erin. And it's helpful to
Yeah.
know that we struggle with it, that the word is not,
Mhm.
it's calling us forth, but it's not that it's so easy. That's really
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah. Well, and then the work just becomes like, I think sometimes when we do this process, obviously we did a very flash version here. We could do hours unpacking this whole thing, and maybe we will someday. But I think like what we can take away from these like shorter experiences of just even getting a glimmer of what your word is just running life decisions, running struggles, running opportunities through that lens, and having like the really just, it almost feels to me like a relief of knowing that if it's not right with your soul, in your case, it's not going to work. Like forcing is not going to
Totally.
work. Doing anything out of soul alignment is simply not going to work. And I think a lot of times people spend decades of their life, if not their whole life, going against that frequency that we are here to learn and teach about. And that is just a ridiculous amount of wasted time and energy.
Yeah. And I just so appreciate that because I wonder if a lot of people experience this, but it's like all the gremlins that I have, oh, if I follow my soul's path, well, how privileged, how lucky for you, how entitled. Oh, you want to do, oh, you can only do your soul's calling, otherwise you can't work. Like, whoa,
Mm-hmm.
I have like some really nasty, and you can see these expressed on Goodreads or elsewhere. It's like there are you can, for any negative thought, you could find a person
Yeah.
or 1,000 out there saying it. But the
Mm-hmm.
problem is that I listen to them and I will feel so badly for how what's going on in the world and just people of all different circumstances that sometimes I don't give myself this permission around
Mm.
this idea. And so, every reminder is helpful. So I just really appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just something that I think you can fully sink into. And you know what? I think also like on the note of getting like the comments about it, it's like I've learned definitely because my word is authentic. So I'm just like about the truth of everything. And I've learned that if I try to do anything that is not authentic, work with people who aren't willing to be authentic, at least do the work. Like sometimes we don't know what's fully authentic for us, but it's like at least I need the frequency of openness to what's real and true. But I have just learned like it's not gonna work. And
Totally.
to just fully, radically, completely accept that as not only something that's never going to change, but also something that is what's uniquely awesome about me. And it is what I have to offer the world. And that's going to trigger the hell out of people sometimes because there's plenty of people that don't want to be in the frequency of authenticity. In fact, I've had people tell me, sometimes even past clients, they're like, "Oh, I saw you on the street in Boulder like a few weeks ago, but I was just like in a place where I was like not making good choices for myself, and I just didn't want to talk to you." Like people have crossed the street to avoid me
Wow.
because they're in a period of time that is just like inauthentic. And I would
Wow.
never judge anyone for that. I have done that. I've built an entire life in an inauthentic way, but it's just interesting. So anybody who's giving you that energy, it's either they're afraid of their soul, they're afraid of what their soul is telling them, they are in direct misalignment and they know it and confined for it, and you're at least in the questioning of what that could mean to live that way.
Yeah, oh, thank you, Erin. It's such a gift. And also, right, I think it's so interesting their own shadow, what they're unwilling to look at. Or also like on this theme of soul, they might be used to me as a certain personality or something that's a more surface, or they're used to one iteration or one set of choices. And
Mm-hmm.
so I found that there's the people who had the most ideas about what I should be doing when to kind of work through this midlife crisis I was describing. We really, there was so much friction. Whereas the friends who were kind of like, you know what's best, or
Hmm.
helping me trust myself was what I needed. I didn't need more advice, you know, and so because that was not moving me closer to the answers. It created a lot of resistance and friction. So I love
Yeah.
your radical permission slip and what you said about yours, authenticity. Like it's what makes you awesome. It's the gift you have to give.
Yep.
It's so powerful.
Well, Jenny Blake, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. You have a beautiful soul. Thank you for sharing it with all of us today.
Thank you so much, Erin. I feel very grateful. I appreciate you doing this with me. Thanks, everyone, if you're still here watching or listening. And oh my gosh, I can't wait to watch and catch up on all the other episodes that you're doing. This is so awesome. So thank you, Erin. What a gift.
Thank you.